Welcome to the Bison Information Network. I'm here with Dash Mental. I'm Malik Mitchell, and we're back in the Denny Sanford Premier Center. It's great to be back. I love the energy of this arena.
It never changes. Every single year, the energy is amazing. And this year, we have an extra day of games. We had the first round yesterday, the extra rounds. So, I mean, you know, it's just that much more basketball to watch.
Yep, we are here. The women's face-off against 10 seed Kansas City. And what better way to start the tournament going against a team that ended your season last season in this same situation?
Exactly. And, you know, considering how they did in the regular season against them, I'd say the revenge tour is going pretty well so far. Yeah. They swept Kansas City in both games in the regular season. Back in January, they went down to Kansas City in Missouri and beat them by 9 points, but it didn't come easy at all. The Bison were down early in the game, and the game was tied at halftime, but the Bison were only up by 1 at the end of the third quarter, and thankfully a good defensive performance in the fourth quarter helped seal a 9-point victory. But then in February, when the Kansas City Roos came up to Fargo, things were not any easier up there. The Bison were down by 6 at halftime and down by 2 at the end of the third quarter due to a dismal defensive performance. But thankfully, the Bison picked it up on both sides of the ball in that game and won by 11 at the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so this game is not to be taken lightly. Both teams can be contenders no matter what your seed is in this tournament. I know we're the second and the 10th, but you cannot take this lightly.
Well, look at what Kansas City just did yesterday against 7th seeded Denver. They came back from a 15-point deficit to win on a 3-point buzzer beater.
Yeah, yep. Get into some NDSU players, you know, to look out for. Heaven Hambling, everybody knows what she can do. You know, pure scorer, pure shooter. She's one of the leaders on the team. She's not afraid to shoot the last shot if she's got to. Then you got Emily Bakey in the paint, a great person to grab rebounds, defense. That's what we're going to harp on later. And then obviously you got Elle Evans, freshman of the year, Elle Evans. You know, she's a good two-way player, a good shooter, all-around player.
A good mixture of young and experienced players. I mean, you talked about Heaven Handling. She's got plenty of experience in this building, so
definitely.
Hopefully that will come in handy today. And then meanwhile, there are some players to watch out for on the Kansas City team as well. Grad student Mana Mensah, she scored 27 points in the game back in Kansas City. And then, actually, no, excuse me, that was the game in Fargo where she scored 27 points. And then back in Kansas City, sophomore Tamia Yugas scored 26 points back in that game in January. She also got the 3-point buzzer beater in the game yesterday against Denver. And then finally, Elise Stafford is the team's top scorer with 411 points. The next best scorer on their team doesn't even have 300 on their team. So Stafford's definitely a player to watch out for in this game.
Definitely. The keys to this game is one of them started out strong. You know, both times they played them this season, the Bison started out sloppy. If they can start out strong, especially with the energy of this arena, they'll be okay.
Yeah, and the second key is to contain Elise Stafford. They did a great job of that back in February when they only held her to 7 points in that game. And then finally, the last key to the game, just play defense. You know, overall in these last 2 games, the reason that they've been behind by the end of the third quarter and struggling is because they just struggle on defense in those games, and it had to rely on the offense bailing them out by scoring a whole bunch of points. They're not going to be able to do that today. If they struggle on defense today, that might cost them in this game.
Definitely. We'll see what happens. Can the Bison overcome Kansas City today? We'll catch you guys at halftime.